Welcome to Wasabi Interviews, where we talk to interesting people in Hawaii, Japan, and beyond. My name is Antonio Vega, and today we are joined by a 14-time award-winning Nā Hōkū Hanohano Award-winning musician, 14 times, Mark Yamanaka. Welcome.
Aloha. How's it, Antonio?
Good. I don't have enough fingers to count your awards, so. So congratulations on all the wonderful success. You know, I heard about you a while ago, and I've been meaning to get in touch, and I'm so glad that we can talk now. So.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah. So when's the last time you've gotten to perform? Because of course, you know, everything that's going on, there isn't much performing going on these days. But
Right.
How long has it been?
I've been doing some virtual stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, I did a handful of virtual stuff for Outrigger Resorts.
Oh, wonderful.
And that's virtual, but I did have a couple of live performances in the last month.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's kind of loosening up a little bit with the COVID stuff. So there were a couple of events, and I think I'm going to start tightening up again and kind of buckling down. So,
yeah.
But, you know, those two performances, I got to say, man, I had to shake off the little rust a little bit. Because, you know, it's been since early March was my last. So the beginning of the year was very busy for me for some reason. Normally, the first quarter of the year, it kind of is a quiet period for gigging for me. Mm-hmm. But this particular year, for some reason, I was traveling to every weekend to Maui, stuff like that. So I was up until March, and then I was supposed to do a special video special with PBS, and that got canceled, and that was the start of tons of emails saying, "I'm sorry, Mark, we got to cancel." Right. So I had stuff all the way through the summer, and you know, with the flow though.
Yeah, exactly. I was reading an article about a performance you did in July. It was like an outdoor fundraiser for, I think it was the theater, like a Kahilu Theatre. Yeah, it sounded really nice. Like outside, people brought their own food. They were sitting outside, and you did a bunch of songs. It's just, the article made it sound like super fun. So
yeah, that was one of the few live performances I had in the last month. It was for the Kahilu Theatre, which is in Waimea. And you know, obviously a lot of venues like that just got hit hard with, you know, things get canceling and stuff like that. So to stay afloat, they gotta, you know, try and raise some funds. So I was like, you know, they're there for us performers when we need a venue. They're right there. So I was there like, yeah, I'll come and you know, help you guys out and put on a nice show. And I think, you know, the attendees were just super excited to just be able to, you know, see some live performance, you know, and practice social distancing at the same time. So
right.
It was interesting.
Yeah. And you performed with your son too. He came out for a song too, right?
Yeah, my son, you know, he's kind of following in my footsteps as far as the music part. And, you know, I try to invite him as much as I can to perform. But yeah, actually did the whole set. And then towards the end of the set, I just called him up and I kept him up on stage with me. So that was fun. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's so nice. And it's interesting because I want to go back a little bit about, you know, and talk about how you got into music, because your family wasn't particularly like musical. It's not like your grandfather and your father were all musicians, right?
Right. You know, yeah. So I wasn't brought up musically as far as having the older generation be musicians, but on the flip side, they enjoyed music. So they would always, you know, my grandma's house would always have the stereo blasting some local music, and my grandma would always play Hawaiian music on her CDs and record player and stuff like that. So I was always around it, but as far as somebody being able to mentor me musically with the instrument, vocally, all that stuff, I had no one to look up to in the family.
So then what happened that got you interested in taking that initiative to learn and to start performing?
So um, in the Hilo school complex, we have our elementary school, which is Hilo Union,
Mm-hmm.
and they offered in fourth grade a mandatory ukulele uh, class during the day. And I gotta tell you, when I was in fourth grade, I was like, I don't want any part of this ukulele. I'm not interested. So at that time, I didn't learn one bit. It didn't stick with me. It was just like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And then we went to Hilo Intermediate School.
Mm-hmm.
Is when all the elementary schools in Hilo kind of congregate after going into the seventh grade. And I met some of my friends who were at Kilkaha Elementary School. They knew how to rock and roll on the ukulele already.
Mm.
I was more of the basketball player back
Mm-hmm.
then, and we'd meet up in the court. And after they play basketball, they jam it on their ukuleles. I'm like, I want to learn that. That is cool, because like I was saying, that like my family would play a lot of music around the house.
Yeah.
And some of the songs that I used to be familiar with, they were jamming on the ukulele. I was like, that's cool. And that's kind of what sparked the interest.
Yeah. It's funny, right? Like when you see your friends do it, then you want to do it.
That's true.
Yeah.
When you have like influence close to you,
Yeah. So I was reading, so your dad did have an ukulele in the house, right? And then you started picking that one up and you just went from there?
Right.
Yeah.
Fortunately, my dad ended up having a old school Kamaka ukulele, a soprano one.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know how it transpired, but I might have gone home one day and said, Dad, I think I want a ukulele. I want to start learning ukulele. He said, no, we don't have to buy one. I have one. So I was like, oh, cool. So he kind of, was old school. I mean, the finish was all messed up and the tuners was all messed up. So he ended up having to kind of, clean it up and get into playing order again. So he did. And I pretty much learned all of my stuff on there for the time being. And I only played ukulele until I learned the basic stuff. And I was like, I can do this. I can play the guitar. So I probably played ukulele for about a year and a half or so. It's through the intermediate school.
Right.
And then I think once I hit ninth grade, or maybe towards the end of eighth grade, I was like, I'm going to teach myself guitar. So I got a guitar chord book, those skinny narrow ones with just the chord fingerings, and I learned off of that.
Oh, that's awesome. Jeez. So you basically just kind of taught yourself and you kept like finding songs you liked and trying to play them?
Exactly. And I think that was a lot of people ask me, if I can give them advice on learning instrument. I said, the easiest way is to learn a song that you absolutely love. Because if something if somebody tells you to learn this song, chances are it's a song you don't know of, you've never heard before, which makes it even more challenging. So I always tell people, find a song you really love, find a song you know by heart, and you know the words. That way, it just enthuses yourself to learn. So I was learning the Ka'au Crater Boys songs, the Kapena songs, and a lot of the Hawaiian songs that I loved. So, and that was all songs I loved. So it just made it that much easier to accomplish.
Yeah. I mean, that's what keeps you going when it gets difficult, right? Because you really want to do it. So
Totally.
Yeah. So what about like the singing aspect of it? Because I mean, people, one reason why people, I think associate with you the yodeling, the falsetto, like your singing is amazing. When did that come into play? When did you start trying to, experiment with that?
Yeah. So, like I said, my grandparents, always, whatever was on the radio, of course, played. But my grandparents always had the traditional Hawaiian music playing in their 6-disc changer. and would always just go on rotation. And and those CDs included the Hui Ohana, Gary Haliamau, and Dennis Pavao, and all those guys. And it just, that kind of style just stuck with me. And I was just so amazed that, these guys singing falsetto. Back then it was like, oh, these guys singing like girls.
Yeah.
And that was the thought of it. I was like, maybe I can try this. But as far as the singing, I remember as just being a young child, just singing along with some of the stuff on the radio, and I enjoyed singing. It wasn't something that I thought of, and back then. But I know my family used to compliment, "Oh, you can sing, yeah." And never, back then, never thought about it. But then once I started picking up the instrument and combining the two, and that's when it's like, "Oh, this is fun,"
Yeah.
But throughout that whole process, it was another challenge, and a thing that will hold me back was the fact that, being in front of people was scary.
Yeah.
Super scary. And, just getting over that stage fright.
Sure.
And another aspect that I was going through of challenges is that, I was so self-conscious and so insecure about being non-Hawaiian. I don't have any Hawaiian ancestry, and that used to bug me a lot, doing Hawaiian music and stuff. So I would actually have my friend carry my ukulele in school.
Oh.
And that's how scared I was of carrying ukulele. I was like, I don't think being a Japanese boy carrying ukulele, I don't think that's proper. That was for some reason, that was my thinking.
Yeah.
But as the days and the months and years went by, I got so much compliments and encouragement from some of my Hawaiian friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I mean, I think, I totally understand that concern, but like when people understand that you are doing this from a place of like sincerity, you really appreciate the music and you want to share that with everyone, I think that's what ends up, making people think like, oh wow, like we want to support him, we love his music, we want him to spread that culture too. So and I think that gets across in your music, so that must be what people felt.
I think so. And I think I think you nailed it right there. Just the fact that, I'm not trying to, kind of like, down, kind of disgrace the Hawaiian music or the Hawaiian culture.
Yeah.
So I think people felt the sincerity of what I was trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
Which actually was nothing. I was just trying to accomplish I was literally just trying to have fun.
Yeah. But
have fun.
Yeah, that's good though. I mean, like, you love it, so and that's what people felt. Yeah. So what about like writing music though? When were you getting into that early on, or was that a little bit later?
Yeah, once I started playing guitar, my dad was always encouraging in that aspect, as far as you should try and write some of your own music, and so it did come. I have a book of some originals that I refer back to and just look at, and I'm like, whoa, what was I thinking? some really silly stuff, and just but I use that as a tool to reflect on, and but yeah, that was early on too, and it's so hard because it's such a original music is such a piece of you a lot of the times. And it just kind of exposes your life in some sort, and to express it and perform it live, and to expose yourself to an audience, it's scary, it's creepy, it's all kinds of things.
Yeah.
So it's originals is challenging for me, but I still write stuff every day. Lucky for iPhones, we can put in our little notes and hum our little melodies in the phone, and hopefully they can preserve some of the stuff and turn it into an actual song.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the songs are resonating. I mean, there's a reason why you've had 3 album of the year awards. So I mean, when you put yourself out there, that also is, a higher risk reward sort of thing, right? When people get it, they really
Yes.
get it, right? Songs about your
You know,
family and your daughter, so
right,
I
right.
was listening to those too. But I've seen that, a lot of your songs, of course, are in Hawaiian, and I was reading that you do, I think you work together with other people to try to get it into Hawaiian too, but also you have some
Yeah.
experience studying Hawaiian. Like how does that process go?
Yes. Yeah. So, when I was in high school, I took a couple of years of Hawaiian language
Yeah.
because, like I was telling you earlier, the fact that I was not Hawaiian and I'm trying to come from a good place to
Mhm.
perform Hawaiian music, I thought that it would be only fitting to learn the language.
Mhm.
And, I've got somewhat of a understanding of the language, but I'm not fluent at all.
Mhm.
Um, and when it comes to Hawaii, writing in Hawaiian, it's supposed to be done in such a poetic fashion that
Right.
a lot of songwriters are actually either fluent or manaleo, which means they've just been brought up speaking
Mm.
Hawaiian. Um, but I luckily for me, my producers who have their own music group, Kupawa, Kellen
Mhm.
and Lee Pike, husband and wife duo,
Mm.
they are they are students of our culture and our language, and they've surrounded themselves with some very important people in the culture.
Mhm.
So they've learned the language fluently and learned how to write Hawaiian music properly, so to
Mm.
say. And I'm very fortunate enough to be working with them, and so they guide me along the way, because
Mhm.
there's a lot that I don't know, and they're really gracious in helping me out.
Mhm. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, like that's how you help, kind of keep the culture alive, right? Because it's very hard when you say, "Hey, here's a book, learn it." No, it's like when you
Yeah,
have a popular song, something that's on the radio, like it gets in your head and it sticks with you, and you start learning
yeah,
things. So yeah, that's awesome.
yeah.
Um, I was wondering something. So I think many people are aware that you also are your, I guess you would say your day job, quote unquote, is also as a car
Yeah,
sales, right? And
yeah.
so I was curious, what was more difficult, like getting on stage, putting yourself out there, or getting your first car sale?
You know, that's a tough one, man. Um,
Each has its own challenges, I suppose. So
yeah, I think getting over the stage fright
yeah.
was more of a process.
Hmm.
Because I don't know, because you know why? Because I think the atmosphere and just the setting
Hmm.
always changed when getting on stage.
Oh,
Either the amount of people,
yeah.
the brand of people,
Yeah.
um, that would always change.
Mhm.
So you'd have to adapt to that scenario. Whereas the
Mm.
car sales, there's X amount of cars to learn to know about. Of course, the customer changes too, and you're
Sure.
dealing with all sorts of customers.
Mhm.
But you learn to, I mean, very quickly, you learn to kind of adapt to, their the customers' demands and questions and stuff like that. So yeah, I
Mhm.
think definitely the music part was more difficult than the car sales part.
Mhm.
But yeah, so
So
actually, I'm actually at work right now.
oh! Well,
Yeah,
thank you for taking time then.
yeah, no problem. I was just gonna go home, but got busy at work, so I just stayed at work.
Yeah. No, I've read other interviews, several where you talk about, your work selling cars and just how accepting, how flexible they have been to work with your schedule, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been with Iona Car Sales for shucks around a little over 12 years now.
Hmm.
Pretty much when my whole solo career started
Hmm.
back in 2010. Um, It was just, because I started car sales in 2008 here at Aiono Car Sales. And David just, they called me and say, hey, look, you want to try the sales position? I'm like, it's commission based,
Mm-hmm.
but, I gave it a go, and I just took the gamble. And of course I let them know, look, I do a lot of traveling and stuff because of music. And they said, no, we'll support you. We back you up. We'll work around your schedule. And so they've been super, I'm so forever indebted to them. Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
actually grew up with the family. We were next door neighbors when I was a child. Yeah. So
that's nice.
And they've made a very reputable name here in the community in Hilo. So super blessed to be a part of their team.
That's great. That's great. I mean, yeah, it's hard to come by somebody that would be so flexible and allow you to be, committed so greatly to both sides, right? Not just the music, but also there. And they get that, you're willing to do a good job there, but you also have other things and so much time for your family too. I mean, like I saw at the last Nā Hōkū Hanohano Awards, you stayed home because your son was graduating, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that was, actually, my wife and I had the best time at home watching Nā Hōkū.
If you ever been to less nerve-wracking, I guess.
Yeah, that's the reason. If you ever been to Nā Hōkū, it's just for a small town Hilo boy to be going up there, Honolulu Convention Center, the Hawaii Convention Center, that seats almost 2,000 people.
Yeah.
And you're amongst your heroes of music and the media.
Yeah.
The lights, the glamour. It's like, what is all this?
Yeah.
So to be able to have been at home, behind the TV, in our regular clothes, no cameras, no eyes on you other than I invited my immediate family over, and we just had a super comfortable time, man. That was not to mock the other years that I was receiving awards, but that was the best time ever.
Yeah. I mean, I can only imagine, like, especially the first time, right? It must be such a stressful thing. You're worried about, how you look and what you're going to say and your face and what are you going to say if you win, if you don't win, and this and that.
Yeah. I went in the mind the first time around back in 2011. I went in with the mindset of just accepting the fact that I'm not going to win anything. I just was so excited to be there, be nominated.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, small town Hilo boy, no expectations, no, like I said back earlier in the conversation, just no goal of music. Just wanted to have fun. And, it was so, I just went in there. Yeah, I want to be able to mingle with these people that I grew up listening to, be able to meet them, and just that was the first time. But I tell you, man, I couldn't even eat that night. I was so nervous.
Yeah, you can't really enjoy it, right? You're not just you're not in the moment. You're too busy thinking about everything else.
And I love eating. I can eat at any time of the day, and in large amounts. And I tell you, the food at the Hōkū's is super small. It's the conversation of where we're gonna eat after always comes up. But that night, I could not swallow a piece of bread. Not it. It was so nerve-wracking.
Speaking of food, like I was watching that you were on Sam Choi's cooking show, and he went over to your house, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And so, what was that like? And are you into cooking as well as not just eating?
Yeah. Number one, I love eating.
Yeah.
Number two, I love cooking.
Oh.
I think being a musician, you're just around so much good food.
Yeah.
And you're around that homestead style, that just homemade cookings, and just everybody wants to take care of you when you're a musician for some reason. As far as the food aspect,
Yeah.
They just want to, after you finish performing they're giving you plates of food and trays of food, and so you're just around it so much. for some reason, yeah, I just kind of got into loving to cook, and I love cooking at home. I'm the cook at home, and I just and fortunately enough, I got to meet Sam Choy along this whole journey of mine. And he was like, I love your music, and one out of the blue, he gave me a call. He said, "Hey, Mark, what do you say you wanna be a guest on the show?" And I'm like, "Dude, it's automatic. I'll be there.
Yeah.
Just let me know when." And it was so fortunate because this we filmed right before COVID happened.
Yeah. I figured because I saw the YouTube video in May, so I figured you guys must have filmed that in like January or something, or February.
It was mid-March.
Oh wow!
So right before the whole shutdown happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, right before.
Mm-hmm.
They came over to Hilo, Sam and John. So Uncle Sam lives in Kona, so he just drove over. But the production team came over from Oahu, and we filmed that. Took us a day, and we had good fun. It was good.
Do you have any signature dishes at home that the family always says, "Dad, can you make this?" or something like that?
Yeah, I do. My kids, they love this ground pork with wamba stir fry. It's almost like a stir fry, but we kind of turn it into a soupy style dish.
Ooh.
We it consists of ground pork, Chinese cabbage, wamba, a lot of garlic. I love garlic.
Ooh, yeah.
Chopped up onions. If you want to make it soupy, you go with chicken broth.
Nice.
Add some chicken broth. And if you want to add a little more kick, you just throw in some oyster sauce.
Nice. Salt
and pepper. And it is simple. Yeah. My daughter loves this dish, and she loves eating it with natto.
Oh,
you know what natto is?
Yeah. Oh, that's great. It's good eating.
Yeah. But that's the signature dish. But I try to make a lot of different stuff. But
yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I mean, you can't go wrong with pork, garlic, and onions. That's just good stuff.
Yeah.
Last area that I wanted to ask you about, because of course, Wasabi, we do often talk about like Japan related topics. So I was reading that you were traveling to Japan pretty frequently to perform with your band. So when did that get started? How has that experience been, like performing in Japan?
Yeah, I from playing music from high school, and I knew that Hawaiian music and hula was such a thing in Japan.
Yeah,
when I was like
really big,
senior in high school and in college, and I was like, that would be my next goal, is to be able to fly there and perform. And I since late high school, I joined up with Kumuhula Danilam Hula Halau, who's based out of Hilo. And he was starting to go to Japan again, because he was going heavily in the 70s and the 80s. And then maybe took a break. But he took me on my first trip to Japan in I think it was 99 or 2000, around there. And it was like a long tour, and it was I just got my first taste of Japan. I was so amazed with the people, the culture, and all that stuff. And then I was going with him throughout the 2000s and early 2000s into the mid 2000s, and like I said, 2010 I released my album, and that's when it started to like really get busy with my own stuff. And then I was going maybe 8 to 9 times a year, which by far is not even close to some of these other artists that go every month,
right?
Or a couple times a month. But I got my fair share of Japan.
So what kind of venues do you perform at when you go?
It varied. It varied from 2,000 seat halls and or even bigger, some bigger Olympic size gymnasium type venues. Wow. And it could even come down to like a small 100 seater restaurant type venues. Yeah, so it varied.
So have you been like up and down the country?
I have actually been down to. I have not made it to Okinawa yet, but I've been to down in the Kyushu area all the way up to Hokkaido. So
wow,
Fukuoka.
Yeah.
Where else? Kyoto, Osaka.
Wow.
Yokohama, Tokyo, Sendai. Yeah. So I've even been on the what is that? Yurihama, which is I think on the Japan seaside, which is a far drive and stuff. But yeah, I've been fortunate enough to see the whole.
That is awesome. Very cool. Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I mean, I know, hula and Hawaiian music are pretty popular over there, but that's great that it's not just like Tokyo or Osaka. It's like it's all over the place apparently.
Right. Yeah, it's widespread, man. I mean, I trip out and people say that there's more hula dancers than there are residents of Hawaii. And that's a true story.
Yeah, well, it's a whole country. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So there's over 1 million hula dancers I hear.
Wow.
Probably closer to 2 million now. But, and sometimes I look at it and I trip out like, if they love Hawaiian music, man, and there's 2 million dancers, they must know who I am. Sometimes it'd be like, that's creepy, that's scary, that like 2 million people might know me. But no, I think about it from time to time, like, a bit of math, like, oh wow, yikes.
Yeah.
So you got to make sure you're on your game as far as recording. Make sure it's good stuff.
Definitely, yeah. That's great. Okay. Last thing, I was listening to you sing "Mi Señorita." And I do speak Spanish as well, and I noticed you sang some Spanish there. Did you specifically learn that for the song, or did you already know a little bit of Spanish?
Well, before Hawaiian language in school, in high school, I took a year of Spanish, which I totally forget everything, like wiped out of my memory.
Yeah.
My wife is Mexican.
Oh, okay.
So she, we actually watched the movie Coco together. I don't know if you saw Coco.
Yeah.
Pixar film.
Pixar, yeah.
And I was like, man, I love this movie. The music and and I was like, one day after work, I drove home, had my ukulele in the car for some reason, and I stopped by Rainbow Falls State Park, and I was starting to just do some kind of like a catchy song, and I'm like, oh, I'll write a song about my wife. I had the melody in my head, and I just wanted to beef up my wife, because my wife, she's so shy, and she's so modest about. I think she's the most beautiful woman in the world, and I just wanted to write some silly, but at the same time sincere thoughts about her, and so I wrote that song, and then her grandmother actually is fluent in Espanol, so she helped me with just translated the first verse into Spanish.
Right. Yeah.
So I just it's a tongue twister sometimes. But I try my best.
It's a fun song. And I love that you threw in a little bit of Spanish, because
I actually recorded my last album, Lele Hua, just before I wrote that song. So I that didn't make the recording.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
so that's on my list to do, my to-do list.
Definitely.
On the next whatever I do. So.
Gotcha. Yeah. So I did see a YouTube video of you performing that. So I will include a link in the description just in case anybody wants to check it out. I love the mouth trumpet too, right?
Just try to make it sound Spanish or whatever. Yeah. I don't know.
And it's fun. It's fun. And I mean that's what we want, right? We just want a fun song. So
exactly. Yeah. Coco really inspired me to do that kind of stuff. Yeah. I just love music, so
yeah. Fun. Well, Mark, thank you so much. Like I said, I will include links to your stuff and your website and down below, so people can go check out all your stuff and your award-winning work and all your awesome songs. So thank you so much for making time out of your work day.
No problem, Antonio. Thank you to Wasabi for having me. Hope you're all doing good out there and staying safe and having fun at the same time.
All right. See ya.
All right. Take care.